Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we've got a brand new car on review with us today. Brand new meaning we haven't actually reviewed this brand before, and that is the Zeekr X. So Zeekr X is actually the compact SUV, full electric compact SUV that you find from Zeekr. And Zeekr also has another model, a more luxurious MPV that they call the 009. But for today's review, we're going to check out the exterior of the Zeekr X, check out the interior, and then of course go take it for a drive as well. And I'll show you, or I'll tell you more about the car as we go along, because it's also the first time that we are experiencing any product from the Zeekr brand. But before we do all that, if you're a driver in Singapore and you're looking for the most competitive insurance quote to renew your car insurance, please check out the link in the description box. We've got some of the most competitive quotes for you to check out. It's free to inquire, so check it out, compare your quotes, and then decide. Without any further ado, let's get on with the review. Let's go. Alright, so jumping straight in, this is the exterior of the Zeekr X full electric compact SUV. And the variant that we have today here is actually the all-wheel drive dual electric motor version. So a bit of a higher spec variant. And with the high spec variant, essentially the difference is the wheel. So this is 19-inch wheel. Like these come with 19-inch wheels as standard, as opposed to the 18-inch wheels that you get on the base variant, which is a rear wheel drive single electric motor. But if you look at the aesthetics of the car, actually it looks really good, man. It looks so competent, you know. It looks like the Malays would say, it looks so semangat. And I actually really like the aesthetic of the car. And from a distance, although there isn't really like obviously because Zeekr's a new brand, and there isn't really like a benchmark in terms of designing or design language, this car does stand out. So as I'm walking along, it's quite easily recognizable as well. And this particular colorway is in the dark grey, but there are some more interesting colorways. Particularly there is a beige that I quite like. I think that really looks awesome. So the front here, very edgy, very scalpel-like, very sharp front, which I think looks very mean, very edgy. Generally a very handsome car If you look down the side, the profile is also quite interesting. It has a C-pillar that reminds me a lot of the BMW i3 from ages ago. Obviously this car doesn't look like the i3, but there are elements of it that remind me of the i3. And I think it's generally a very interesting look, because most cars would just have a regular quarter panel in the rear window, but this one doesn't. In fact, it's just got this it's got this raised line here. Ooh, very cool. So quite a lot of design features that are inbuilt into what is a seemingly simple looking car. Now at the rear, I think it's probably the best looking part of the car. With the grey that you see today, there isn't so much contrast with the black paneling around the glass, but in a lighter color, this one really stands out. And in terms of branding as well, you know, it doesn't get much neater than just calling your car X. Now, some wonder if this is a deliberate attempt to just maybe block out the letter X, so just in case Tesla wants to use the letter X one day. But anyway, no complaints about the name of the car. Very cool sounding. Like, what do you drive? I drive a Zeekr X. Okay, but anyway, boot button is actually up here. And I think this is kind of nice, because nobody seems to be doing these sort of buttons. Everybody seems to be trying to hide it, and then you can't find it, and then it's very irritating. But this one is so obvious, it's so easy to press. So in terms of UX, I think really good. And although it's not concealed, it's actually a really nicely embedded piece of hardware. Now, boot space. So this isn't the largest boot in the market. I think they have Zeekr have probably prioritized rear cabin space a little bit more, and that's fine, because I don't think this car is meant to carry like your extended family as well. It's really just meant for small families, or like couples, or basically smaller family setups. And if you're looking to take this car up to Malaysia for a weekend trip, definitely still enough space for like two pieces of luggage, some duffel bags maybe, and then you're all set to go. But definitely not a car or not a boot for like golfers per se. If that's your kind of lifestyle, I don't think this will fit very well. But if you're like a tennis player maybe, or like a runner, or like maybe you play pickleball, then I think it's all well and good. Very nice car to have. Okay, obviously opinions are always going to be divided about design. I'll leave you to decide whether you like the design or not, but this is how the Zeekr X looks like. I'm going to jump into the car now and show you its interior. Let's go. Alright guys, so welcome to the cabin of the Zeekr X. And this is the first time we are in any sort of Zeekr car or product, so this is going to be a rather interesting one. And throughout the last few days, I've been playing with the features of the car, and I must say that there are quite a lot of interesting bits to explore in the car, not just in terms of positive UX, but also in some very cute gimmicky features that will serve you very well as party tricks when you bring your colleagues out for lunch. So to get things started, generally you would find that the interior is what you would expect of a modern premium luxury EV. You've got quite a minimalist design. I guess in the Zeekr it's not as minimalist as what you get in other brands or some other brands, but it is a very clean interior. You don't have any physical buttons, at least from the infotainment system perspective, so everything is embedded in the infotainment unit. It's a very clear display, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which you will most likely connect to, so the rest of the interface doesn't really matter to you, or would not matter to you as much. But one thing I want to highlight about this infotainment system is the speed that the voice control responds to you. So in typical systems, you need to activate the system. You usually with a high designation. You need to say hi, whatever brand you are driving, and then after that you wait for the beep and then you give your command. So it feels a bit retarded because in theory you could probably do that faster with a physical button, but with this particular car, and I'm sure with the other Zeekrs as well, you can actually just say your complete sentence from the get-go, which essentially then saves you time. So for example, if I want this window down, I can say, "Hi Zeekr, wind down my window." I don't have to wait. "Hi Zeekr, wind up my window."
This function is not yet supported.
Hi Zeekr, wind up all windows.
Sorry, again?
Wind up all windows. Yeah, sorry about that. I think there was a bit of noise outside, but you get the gist of it. In fact, I'm going to do something that's maybe aircon related now. "Hi Zeekr, I'm warm."
Currently, it is cloudy in Singapore with a temperature of 28 degrees Celsius. Today, there will be thunderstorms with a low of 25 and a high of 31 degrees Celsius.
Okay, so maybe that wasn't absolutely clear, but "Hi Zeekr, reduce the fan speed."
Okay, I've decreased fan speed by 1 in the front. It's the minimum level.
"Hi Zeekr, increase the fan
I am
speed."
here. Okay, I've increased fan speed by 1 in the front.
So just the simple fact that you don't have to wait for the beep before giving your instruction to the car already helps you to save quite a bit of time. And that would be faster than me trying to navigate through the buttons, or me trying to take my eyes off the road to kind of press the right button. So I think that's a really useful feature in the car that I would imagine owners of the Zeekr X would probably utilize quite a lot. In terms of other functions, it has a light show function, which basically times the exterior lightings of the car to a certain song that you can play through the car. So not very dissimilar to what you find on another EV brand, but nonetheless a nice one to have. I have tried it out. It is quite spectacular, quite pleasant. My daughter loves it. She was dancing along to the wedding march, and then the song was playing and the lights were flashing. The other slightly gimmicky, or actually very gimmicky function that I absolutely love is called external audio play. So with this function, you can actually project sounds and music onto the exterior of the car. So right now I'm actually inside the car, and actually I can play a cat sound which will be playing outside, and it's pretty damn loud. Like, you can set it to quite a high level. So this is I mean, this is a pretty cool party trick, because when I went to pick my wife up from work, I was playing the cat sound and she was just wondering what the hell was going on. But that's just one of the things you can do with external audio. Another thing that you can do is actually play music through multimedia loudspeaking. So if you leave your car on and then you go for a picnic, for example, you can actually use your entire car as a Bluetooth speaker. So you can just play your favorite tracks from Spotify and project it out into the open, and it is pretty loud. Like, for example, if I were to put it on full volume, I think somebody about 50 to 70 meters away, or maybe even 100 meters away, should be able to hear the music quite clearly. But the last external audio feature that I really like is the fact that you can actually project your own voice outside, which I like, because you get to scold people from inside your car. So, hey, don't touch my car, or like, don't lean on my car, like, hey, watch where you're going. The only downside here is that you can't actually activate this function while driving, because actually I don't know why you can't do it. I mean, it's not really a safety issue, but I suppose it's probably for the best, because otherwise I would probably use it to scold a lot of people on the road. Okay, and anyway, we spent a lot of time talking about the infotainment unit. It's a very good one, very intuitive, not difficult to use whatsoever, and it looks good. I mean, it looks like what you expect from a modern EV, but no surprises there. In terms of the digital driver's display, so there is a column-mounted digital driver's display. It's this small one here. Actually, it looks really good. Tells you just enough information that you need. Fits the aesthetic of the car. And actually, I think it looks very premium, because it looks like how do I put this? It feels like you're piloting a spaceship. You know, it's not the traditional large infotainment or digital driver's display. It's actually very, very focused here. Up front, you have a heads-up display, and in the car, you have this Yamaha sound system that's actually one of the better ones that we have heard in a while. Now, looking around the cabin, generally speaking, you've got some very interesting bits. Like, for example, the door handles are actually replaced by a button, so you just press this and push, and then the window controls are actually a bit finicky. I was gonna say finicky, but okay. Essentially, it's not your usual press down, press up. It's like a forward, backward button. So, depending on how your brain is wired, you're gonna have problems with this or not. So, some people that I've spoken to, they just naturally press it the right way. For me, my brain's wired a bit differently. So, initially, I kind of pulled backward to get the window to come down, because it was like down, you know, like I wanted it to come down. But what you're actually supposed to do is it's supposed to mimic the action of, you know, in a traditional car, when you've got a downward facing button, you push down. So yeah, like I said, you know, depending on how your brain is how your brain is wired, you're gonna see that you will struggle with this for a bit. But anyway, this is something you get used to. You know, you probably get used to it after one try, so not a huge issue. But other than that, the hardware is really nice. It's got this nice almost like a rose gold trimming, and you've got rose gold trims everywhere, including the logo, the buttons on the steering wheel, the door buttons, some of the trim bits that you get here as well. Going into more detail, you've got USB chargers all the way at the front. You've got a variety of them as well. You've got this holder here for you to put. Actually, honestly, I'm not sure what you're supposed to put here, because your phone is supposed to go in this dedicated slot here. Very, very nicely made, very secure. So what I like about this is that as you're driving around, you're chucking the car around corners, your phone isn't shifting. It's actually nicely embedded here. Now, the party trick of the Zeekr X has to be the refrigerator that you find here. So this refrigerator is not just some weak ass refrigerator. So this particular unit has the ability to cool up to minus 15 degrees, so you can actually keep frozen items in there. And not only that, you can also set it to become a warmer, which can go up to like 30-40 degrees, which is actually pretty awesome. So you buy your tapao, you tapao your food, you put it inside here, it's going to stay warm throughout your journey. In fact, it might even be hotter than when you bought it. But I think generally most people in Singapore will be using this for the refrigeration function obviously because we have such warm weather and we like our cold treats quite a bit. So yeah, when I actually took the car for tests, Zeekr actually to cancel. To actually illustrate the point, they actually put two Magnum ice cream sticks inside here for me to enjoy, and that was a very nice and subtle way of proving that point that this is actually legit, like it's a proper fridge. It does take some time to cool down to your desired temperature though, so I think what would most likely be the use case here is you will need to use pre-cooling via the Zeekr app, and what you'll likely do is that before you purchase your frozen item and before you get to the car, you'll probably start the car remotely and get the refrigerator to start cooling down to your desired temperature. And that's pretty much that. I've spoken a lot about the interior of the car, a lot about the inside of the car, partially also because it's the first time we are reviewing a Zeekr on the channel. But aside from that, I also think that this is a very unique car in the sense where for a Chinese-made EV, I really do think that it does present itself very well with a very premium touch. Everything feels well put together. So far, I've had no complaints about the fit and finish of the Zeekr X. Let's jump into the back seat. Although I don't think that back seat space is going to be the priority of buyers in the Zeekr X, but let's jump in anyway and check out the rear seats to see what the rear is about. Let's go. Alright, so jumping into the rear of the Zeekr X, and from the outside of the car, visually you get this idea that this is a hatchback on stilts. You know, because it's not a large car, you don't immediately think of it as an SUV. But when you jump into the rear, you get this rather interesting feeling. So you've got this very unique door panel here, which in place of a quarter window is just kind of one piece. So the entire car feels actually quite boxy from the inside, and I'm gonna say that it's a really interesting way of making the car feel larger, and I think they have sort of succeeded, because generally in the rear, headroom is actually pretty damn good. Not a large car, so actually is this? Okay, so it does feel like this seat has been pushed back for comfort access. So this isn't my regular driving position. My regular driving position would probably be another 3 inches in front, 3 to 4 inches in front. And when that happens, you can imagine the amount of legroom that I will have. So even with the seat pushed back, I do have enough legroom and I have excellent headroom. So with this in front, I will have even better legroom. There is a sort of almost flat floor in the second row over here. So I guess that helps with the general feelings of space as well. The car is going to feel a little bit more roomy in that sense. In the middle segment here, you've got aircon controls. This is a single zone, and the aircon vents are actually B-pillar vents, but they are in a rather weird position. Instead of being up here, they're actually down here. So unfortunately, it feels like it's just going to be blowing air conditioning at your knee. So if you're one of those people with rheumatism, then good luck to you. But other than that, I guess some aircon vents is, or rather poorly placed aircon vents is better than no aircon vents, especially in Singapore's weather. I'm actually really surprised about the space in the back. I thought it would be a lot more cramped. 100% truth, this is the first time I'm jumping into the back throughout the entire time I have been in the car. I've been driving the car, so all this is very new for me as well. In terms of the you know, we were talking about how premium the car feels earlier on, and I think in the rear, this theme kind of continues, because what you get here is that, like, the entire feeling of the seat is something that, like, from the rear when you're sitting behind the driver's seat looks really solid. It looks like something you get in an S-Class, especially with this panel here, this trim here. And although it does obstruct your view a little bit, it's quite full of the seat, so you aren't able to see out the front a lot. But it does have a panoramic roof, so it does help to alleviate some of that claustrophobic elements of the car. So unlike, you know, like cars like the CHR, I mean, this is a very bad example because it's such an old car, but you know, with dark roof linings, with a larger seat, it could have been very easy for this car to feel very claustrophobic, but that's not really the case here because you've got a very nice panoramic roof that helps to alleviate some of these space constraints. Alright, so with that said, let's jump back in the driver's seat. I'm eager to show you what the car can do on the road. So let's go take the car for a drive and then I'll explain some of the things to you. Let's go. Alright guys, so jumping back into the driver's seat of the Zeekr X. And we're about to go take the car for a drive, but before we do that, as usual, we talk about some of the specifications of the car. So 66 kilowatt hour battery pack. So this is actually exactly the same battery pack that you get on the rear-wheel drive variant, the base variant. This is of course the all-wheel drive dual electric motor variant. So more powerful, this car. Same battery pack, 66 kilowatt hour, but this car does have up to 420 kilometers of range. In terms of power, we are looking at about 422 brake horsepower, 543 Newton meters of torque, and that will allow the Zeekr X to propel from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in about 3.8 seconds. So this is a massively quick car. In fact, the last time we saw an EV, or rather a mainstream EV, that could manage these sort of speeds, it was the BYD Seal, the performance variant. So definitely a very exciting proposition when it comes to performance. But in today's drive, we're also going to take a look at how the car kind of feels overall, because I don't think the consumers who are purchasing this car in Singapore are going to be gunning this car all the time. So what does the car feel like when you are not gunning the car? So I mean, obviously this is going to be a really quick car and later on I'm going to show you a little bit of the acceleration, but it's not going to be the main point of this review as well. To get things started, generally, as you are, I mean, all across the board, when you get into the car, open the doors, get in the car, generally the car feels very premium. So I think that's a huge plus point for anybody who's looking to spend in this price bracket and looking to get some value in terms of how premium the car potentially feels. Okay, let me just, a lot of people obstacles. So as I've shown you earlier on, this car rides on 19-inch wheels as standard. This is one size larger than the base rear-wheel drive variant. So definitely a little bit more firm in terms of the overall setup. And you do feel that when you go over humps. So like for example, I'm going over a hump in my condo right now. And you do get a little bit of firmness that comes through the cabin, and especially for the rear seats as well, because you know typically for anything that doesn't have an overhang at the rear, anything that doesn't have a tail, so to speak, you do get a bit of jumpiness from, or rather the rear passengers do experience a bit of jumpiness when you go over the hump, especially if you go over too fast. So that's really something to take note of. But then again, if you look at the size of the car, being a compact SUV, the demeanor of the car, so very modern, very edgy, I'm thinking that this is probably something that will appeal to maybe couples, or maybe newly married couples who don't have kids yet. So I don't think the rear comfort or rear seat comfort is going to be too much of a contention point, so to speak. Generally in the front, you feel very planted. I like the amount of seat adjustment you can get in this car. There's quite an extensive range of adjustments, so you can always find a comfortable driving position for yourself. Being an electric vehicle, obviously the car is smooth, the car is quiet. What I do like is that in terms of regenerative braking, there's essentially two modes. There's regular regen and then the sports regen. Regular regen will offer you a higher level of regenerative braking, and even with normal regen, you don't really feel like the car is too jerky. Not like you get in some other EVs that where the baseline regenerative braking is actually quite violent already. What you don't get in this car, however, is the option to turn it completely off. So, being a driver of a petrol-powered car at the current moment, I do feel that, or rather I feel that, you know, a lot of people who are still on petrol-powered cars, they would prefer an EV that offers the ability to turn off the regenerative braking completely, just so the car glides a bit better, the car glides a bit more naturally. Obviously, you know, some people are going to say that, hey, you know, even in petrol-powered cars, you have some level of engine braking, and that's true. But I really do enjoy the feeling of not having any regenerative braking. But that being said, in this car, even though there is a small level of regenerative braking, and you do feel the car slow down quite decisively, it's not too intrusive, and it doesn't cause you to have too much of a jerky ride as well. Brake calibration is really good in this car. I kind of like it, and I think overall cabin insulation is also pretty awesome. Up on the highways, you don't really get much noise into the cabin, which is a plus point, because typically for compact SUVs, quite a lot of noise does coming through the front wheel hubs. But in this car, not so much. So pretty well done there. I think generally the car is very well insulated, even though it is a frameless window setup. Now, if there's one thing to nitpick about this car, is probably the fact that around Singapore roads, where we have a lot of construction bits, where we have a lot of patchwork, you know, people cut the tarmac to build like cables or to do piping, and then they patch it back. You do feel quite a lot of the road in this car, probably due to the fact that the suspension setup is pretty firm. You do feel the car kind of react quite significantly to what's happening on the ground. So if you were to put it in a not so nice way, it's a little bit jumpy, so to speak. But other than that, I think there's also a trade-off here, right? Because if you have a car that is very compliant with these road imperfections and kind of just rolls over it comfortably, typically what you get is a car that's a bit softer and probably not handling so well in terms of corners and body control and body roll. In the Zeekr X, however, I think this is the trade-off like I just described. So you do have a firmer setup, you do feel more things on the road. But the trade-off is that you also feel a lot more secure when you're chucking this thing into a corner. So definitely as a compact SUV, I mean an SUV in general, it's a bit more elevated, you do feel a little bit of body roll, but generally still under control, still very, very good. Let me just get out of here. So I think over here will be a good opportunity to show you the acceleration of the Zeekr X. So let's just go. What a rocket ship. It's an interesting bit about the acceleration in the Zeekr X as well, because what I kind of realized is that it's almost got this sort of two-step acceleration, almost like the car has two gears. A little bit like what you would feel in a Audi e-tron GT RS, but no, you actually only have a single gear setup in this car. So but you do get that two-step acceleration, which is actually kind of nice, kind of pleasant. What it does is that it gives you the initial shove, and then after that the car kind of sits down and it kind of pulls away. So really pleasant there. So I was thinking that sweeping corner at about maybe about 50 kilometers per hour, and very comfortable. Let's go on the smaller roads again and then see what we can do here. So if power is something that you're going to prioritize in your next purchase, especially with an EV, then I think the Zeekr X, the all-wheel drive version, is definitely going to be a very interesting proposition, because essentially it only costs $15,000 more than the rear-wheel drive version. So quite a small increment to pay for quite a lot more power. In terms of ownership, obviously that means that road tax is going to be higher. Probably close to double of what you would pay for the rear-wheel drive base variant. But once again, you know, if power is your priority and you intend to utilize this power up on the North-South Highway to Malaysia, then I think overall you still get quite a lot of value, because if you compare this car's price point to other cars in the similar price segment, I think you'll be getting quite a lot less power. I mean, of course, not including the BYD Seal performance, because that particular car is actually really well priced as well. But if you compare this to, say, a Continental option, so whether you're looking at the VW range or whether you look at the BMW range, typically what you will get is a bit less power compared to the Zeekr X at this same price point. And in fact, what you will get from the Continental automakers is probably a Cat A version car, which, you know, honestly, driving around Singapore, nothing wrong with a Cat A powered EV. Yeah, so I digress a little bit, but I just went over that hump quite quickly, almost 60 plus kilometers per hour. And although you feel the jump, you feel the car throw you up a little bit, generally you don't feel the car bounce. There's no bounciness. I'm going to do that again actually. So this is where the firm suspension probably comes into play, and feels quite pleasant to have, because in a more traditionally comfortable car, you will probably just kind of bounce over it, and you probably get a lot of aftershock, so to speak. You'll probably bounce through, you know, the next 1-2 meters after the hump. But with a car like the Zeekr X, you do get a lot more composure with going over something like that. So you feel the impact, but you also don't get the bounce after. So that's quite comfortable in a sense. This is one of those things that I always talk about, you know, the different types of comfort that you can derive from a car, both firm and soft suspension setup. It's a bit hard to explain to people, but I think you really have to give the car a try for yourself. For those of you who don't know, I mean, Zeekr, completely new brand in Singapore, right? First time we're ever having it, and first time I'm driving a Zeekr, first time I'm testing any sort of Zeekr product. This is distributed by Premium Automobiles, so if you are looking to see and check out what the Zeekr is about, I strongly encourage you to book a test drive, because aside from the drive, there are so many little bits and pieces like I showed you earlier as well, that are actually quite well thought out. There's a lot of tech in the car, and I think the UX of the car is actually quite a pleasant one to experience as well. I'm stuck behind a lorry now, so I can't really show you too much more on the acceleration, but let me see if I can overtake him. Probably not supposed to overtake him, but let's just see. Let's see if I have some clear road in front of me. Do I have some clear road in front of me? I do have some clear road in front of me, so let's go. So that was rather effortless. Boink. There we go. So at this juncture, if you have any sort of questions about the Zeekr X that I have failed to address, that I did not cover, obviously because there's so many things to cover, put your questions in the comment section below. I will be more than happy to answer them. And if you... Oh wait, before I end off, there is a little thing I want to show you. So very nice, like basically there's like a so what they just prompted me was that they asked me if I'm tired and asked me to drive carefully. So basically the driver assistance programs are actually quite active in this car. So if I pretend to yawn, like, they will ask me if I'm tired and they'll ask me to take a break. So pretty cool. I think this feature is going to be quite useful for people who drive. I mean, for myself, I drive to Malaysia a lot for golf, and after golf we usually have quite a heavy lunch, and then we head back to Singapore, and typically there is a drive that I usually feel a little bit sleepy, and I think this would be very useful to help me to stay awake. But in any case, just wanted to squeeze in that little bit because I kind of forgot to talk about it earlier, and I kind of like this program or this feature. But yes, so if you're a driver in Singapore and you are looking to renew your car insurance for the best price possible, be sure to check out the link in the description box below. We got some of the most competitive quotes in Singapore for you to renew your car insurance. So if you already have a quote, no worries, ours is free to inquire. You can just inquire, find out more, compare, and then make your decision. If you have found this review useful, or if you have enjoyed it in any way, please consider giving this video a like, share with your friends, subscribe to the channel, because we've got car reviews coming out every single week. So it will be wonderful if you could join us for those reviews as well. If not, as usual, please take care of yourself, stay safe, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.